Now that we have the 4 basic cards made, we're going to talk about creating the inside panels for each of these cards. Each card has a different panel, and each panel is made with the envelope punch board features. So to do this first one, we're going to call this panel number 1, and we're going to create this basic shape. So to do that, you're going to need a piece of black cardstock that measures 5 1/4 inches by 4 inches. And then using your envelope punch board, what you're going to do is you're going to line up the left top corner of your card, this corner right here, and you're going to place it under the center post of the envelope punch board punch. Okay, now we've looked at this before. You know the center post is right in here. Okay, so you're going to place the left top corner of this black piece of cardstock right underneath that, kind of center it, and give it a punch. And so that gives you this kind of detail right here. Now, you're going to take that and you do the same thing on the other 4 corners. But what you're going to have to do is flip this piece over, put it under the center corner, punch. And then you're going to flip it over again, put it under that center post, punch, flip it this way, punch again. So your final piece is going to look like this. Now, we're going to make a matching piece that's going to go on the top of this using off-white cardstock, and the off-white cardstock measures 5 inches by 3 3/4 inches. And you're going to punch it in exactly the same manner. Stick the left top corner under the center post of the punch, give it a punch, flip it this way, center it, punch, flip it over, center it, punch, flip it, center it, and punch. Okay? So now we have a background piece and a top piece. And so all you're going to do at this point then is you're just going to use your black ink and an ink applicator, this kind of thing right here, and you're just going to go all the way around the edges of this white piece. And before you adhere it to the center of this black card, you're going to take your butterfly stamp and you're just simply going to stamp a couple of butterflies near the bottom of the white piece. Now you can use any kind of stamp set that you wish. I'm using butterflies for this demonstration. You could use flowers, you could use whatever you like. And you can really, I'm going to talk about stamping on the inside of all of these cards, but you can design it any way you wish. I'm putting them down here because, as you're going to see when we get into the embellishment part, there's going to be an extra piece down here. But that's in a later video. Okay? So that's how you do panel number 1. So then we're going to move on to panel number 2. Panel number 2 looks like this. A little different kind of shape, and we're going to use the envelope punch board for that as well. So to create this, again, you're going to take your piece of black cardstock that you've pre-cut, 5 1/4 inches by 4 inches, and this time you're going to place the top corner, top left corner of your black piece of cardstock, and you're going to line it with the score guide. That's this little point down here. Okay, I hope you can see that okay. Right along here. And you're going to take this left edge of your piece of black cardstock and you're just going to align it with that point right here, you see, and punch. And then you're going to just flip the card over and you're going to do the same thing again, lining up that left edge with the score guide, point, punch. And then flip it this way, align it, punch, flip it this way, align it, and punch. And so now you have this little figure here, which kind of reminds me a little bit of an hourglass kind of shape. Again, you're going to now take your off-white cardstock. Again, it measures 5 inches by 3 3/4 inches, and you're going to punch it the same way, lining up that left edge with the point of the score guide. Punch, flip it, punch, flip it, punch, flip it, punch. All right. Again, you're going to ink with your ink applicator all the edges all the way around to give it that distressed look. You're going to center this and glue it to the center of this. And before you do it, or you can do it when it's on the black cardstock, your choice, you're going to use your rubber stamps. And actually this time you're going to use a stencil, which I created using the Cricut and the butterfly cutout. And what I simply did, and you could use any stencil for this, again, it doesn't matter, but because my theme is butterflies and bows, I'm using this. And you just lay it across any way you want. You can put it diagonally or whatever, using your ink applicator and whatever color of reddish shade or coordinating color. I'm using pinks and reds for mine, but you might be using something else. You're going to take it, ink up your applicator, and you're going to pounce on the stencil all over. And you keep doing that until you get the desired darkness that you wish. And remember, you don't want it to go too dark because you're probably going to be writing a message on the inside of this card across this. And then glue this whole thing to the center of this card. So that's panel number 2. Panel number 3. Let me get that to show you what panel number 3 looks like. And this is panel number 4. Again, sort of looks like the hourglass, but there's a slight variation in the way that the curves are cut. So we're going to take again our black piece of cardstock, and we'll take our envelope punch board, and you're going to take the top right corner this time of the cardstock, and you're going to line it with the right edge of the punch. Okay, so this is the right edge of the punch. Okay, let me see if I can get this up closer. So we know this was the score guide point here. This is the center post that's in there, and over here we have this edge. Okay, and that's what I'm referring to as the right edge of the punch. Okay, so you take the right top edge of your black cardstock, you're going to line it up, and you're going to see there's a little bit of a line right here on the edge. Okay, again, I'll tilt it up a bit. So you see it kind of curves on the inside of the punch, but right here there's an edge. So you're just going to line up your edge of your paper, of your black piece of cardstock, with that edge, and you're going to punch it. Now this time, you're going to rotate your piece 90 degrees to the left, like this. Line up this edge, again, with this right edge of the punch, and punch. Rotate again 90 degrees. Take your edge, line it up with the right edge of the punch, punch. Rotate it one more time 90 degrees. The last edge lined up with the right edge of the punch, and punch. And there you get this effect. Okay, you're going to do the same thing with the white piece of cardstock. So you're going to line it up with the right edge, punch it, rotate 90 degrees, punch it, rotate it 90 degrees, punch it, and last time rotate it 90 degrees and punch it. And you have that. So you see, that's the inside part of this panel here. Okay, now for decorating this, you're simply going to take your collage stamp, ink it up, and this is a butterfly collage stamp. And again, you can do this any way you want. If you've got a collage stamp you really like, probably with flowers or something like that, same thing, you can use it, ink it up, stamp it onto the white part, then adhere the white cardstock, off-white cardstock, to the black cardstock, and then center that whole piece into the center panel of the inside part of your third card. All right, our last panel looks like this. Okay, again, it's oh, sorry, that's not the last one. That one we've already seen. This is the last one right here. Nope, that's the first one. All right, bear with me, I just have to find it. here we go. This is the last panel. All right. Now, in this one, you're going to take the black cardstock, and you notice it has its corners around it. And you notice the white panel is slightly different. It's not the same. The other three were basically just a slightly smaller version of the black cardstock, but this one is very different. So to do this, you're going to use the corner rounder on your envelope punch board and simply round each corner of your black piece of cardstock. You could use a different corner rounder for this, but happens to be attached to the envelope punch board, so that's very convenient. All right, so we have this. Now we're going to take our off-white cardstock, and for this, and I have to look at my notes, so bear with me for a second because I get a little mixed up. You're going to take the left top corner, okay, this corner right here, and you're going to place it under the left inside edge of the punch envelope punch, okay, the inside left edge. So what I mean is, again, we have the center post, we have the score guide, we have the right edge, which we've already used. Now I'm talking about this edge right at the edge of where the score guide attaches to the punch itself, all right, right in here. So you're going to take this, take your left top edge, you're going to line it up with the inside of that. I'll show you. See a little bit better. You see in here, just that edge right there. Okay, line it up with that and punch. Then you're going to flip it to the left or horizontally and line up that edge again with the inside edge of the punch and punch. Then you're going to flip it vertically. Or is that vertical or is that horizontal? That's vertical, okay. And put that edge in here. Then flip it horizontally. Put that edge on the inside of this edge here. And you have this shape. Now what happens? Simply be taking these two shapes and it's going to look like this, okay. For decoration, you're going to simply take a small butterfly stamp and you're going to do something called off stamping. And what that is you first of all ink up your stamp the first time, stamp it, but don't go back and re-ink it, stamp it again so you get sort of a secondary print, a little faded look to it. Then ink it, stamp it, off stamp it, ink it, off stamp it, and you can off stamp in the background if you want as well. It gives a bit of a dimensional effect with these fading butterflies behind the hard against the original stamp versions, all right? So you can see that here. Now again, you're free to do whatever you want, whatever pattern you want to go with. I just sort of did a random kind of pattern here. If you want to be a little bit more precise, you can be. So that finishes up the last panel and the last card. So when we come back, I'm going to talk about how you make the butterfly and the bow embellishments that are going to go on each one of these cards. So now we have all four basic cards made, but what we're going to do now is embellish them. And this is where we're going to use a combination of butterfly die cuts and bows that we're creating all out of the pattern paper that we're using for our cards and for the card holder itself. So card number one. Card number one, we're going to call this right now the card that had the two butterflies stamped at the bottom on the inside. And these elements, you can mix and match them whatever way you see fit. So I'm going to go through how I embellished each card, but feel free to do your own variation on this. So for card number one, on the outside, we're going to take two of our die cut butterflies. Now, I cut these all out in advance using my Cricut. You could simply stamp them with a black ink pad and then cut around that if you wish, or you could buy some pre-made butterfly embellishments that match your color scheme. It's up to you. But mine are die cut, and I have three different sizes. I have a large and a medium, and I have a small, which you're going to see later on. So for this one set, I'm going to put a butterfly right up here in the corner of my card on the outside, and I'm simply going to take the two die cut butterflies, and I'm going to get out my black ink pad and my ink applicator and just ink it up, and take each butterfly and just lightly go around the edges just to give it a little definition. Okay, and don't worry if you can't get into every little spot on the butterfly. You can if you bend it around. I don't worry about this. I'm just trying to give it a very slight shadowy effect. So when I put this all together onto the front of the card, it's going to literally pop out. Okay, that should do it. Enough ink. All right, then I'm going to take my dimensional squares, dimensional dots, whatever you want to call them. I get them at Walmart. That seems to be the cheapest place for it, but wherever you want to purchase them. And I'm going to decide which side I'm going to have coming up. Now, this is double-sided paper, so I do have a contrast, and I kind of want the contrast. So I'm going to flip this butterfly over and use the side that's different from the side of paper I'm using on the large one, just to give it a little bit more dimension. So I get out my pop dots, and or whatever you want to call them, dimensional squares, circles. Stick one there on the wing. 2 will probably be enough. I really have a problem using these things because getting the paper off them, you really need long nails, and I'm sure many of you have long nails. Okay, that wasn't too bad. Did pretty good that time. And I'm just going to center it, the medium-sized one on top of the large one. Press it down, and then I'm just going to adhere it wherever, probably a little off-center, to the front of this card. And to stick it on there, you could use glue, wet glue. You could use your Tombow or tape runner. I'm just going to use a couple of glue dots. These happen to be dimensional glue dots again, just to bring it up. It's up to you how much dimension you want. Okay, so the front of the card is done. Now if you want to add something more to the front of this, you can. I'm just keeping it fairly simple. Now on the inside part, this big blank part I have here, I'm going to create a bow for this. So what I need is I need 2 strips of this pattern paper again. Each of them cut 1 inch in width, and one cut 8 inches long, the other one cut 5 inches long. Let's take the shorter of the 2 pieces and take our envelope punch board. What we're going to do is, this is going to be the back of our bow. So I'm going to make a couple of points on either end, make it more bow-like. Now I'm lining up the paper with that center post, and I'm centering the paper in the center of that post in the center of the punch. I've pointed this one out to you before. You just eyeball it, punch it, so you get this little V. Flip it around to the other end, center it up, punch it. Same idea. Now, then you're going to look for the halfway point between one end to the other end, and you can kind of eyeball it. I'm looking here on the markings for this, and it's at 2 3/4 of an inch, which is about right. Punch it, put it in, line it up again, 2 3/4 inches according to this, and I have the background for my bow. Let's put that to the side for a second and take the longer 1 inch by 8 inch strip. Now for this, we're going to place the top left edge up against the edge of the inside of the left edge of the punch. And I've pointed that out to you before, and just so you remember, right here we've got our score guide point. We got the center post in here, and what I'm talking about is just right in here on the inside edge. You can't see that, my finger's in the way, but right in here. Okay, so I'll just put the paper in it to show you, see if that shows up better. So you can see it's just lined up with that inside edge part there. Okay, so line it up, punch it, flip it over, do the same thing. Line it up with that edge, that left inside edge, punch it. So we have this little point. Turn your paper to the other side, to the other end, do the same thing, line it up, punch it, flip it over, line it up, punch it. So what I have are 2 points on either end. Now, next thing I'm going to do is do the same thing as I did with that shorter piece. I want to put a V here and a V here. So I'm going to slip it in, and halfway is about 4 inches along here on the mark. Punch it. Do the other side, about 4 inches, the mark here. Punch it. And so I have something that looks like this. Now this is going to be our actual bow. Now, the easiest thing to do is take your bone folder and deciding on which side you want to face out on the bow. Just very lightly run your bone folder underneath it to give it a bit of a curve. This is going to make tacking it down a little easier. Flip it over, and now you can do this with wet glue, you can do it with a tape runner, whatever. I'm going to do it with, I think I'm going to do it with a tape runner. And I'm just going to put in this little V part, the center, I'm going to put some glue on here. And then this little tab part, you can see right here, the little tab part, I'm just going to bend it over, keeping the curvature of the bow, stick it down in the center, and stick it down. And I'm going to add a little bit more adhesive to this side, and I'm going to do the same thing to the opposite side. This is where you want a really strong glue, because there's a lot of tension on this. Okay, so there we have the beginnings of a bow. Now, I'm going to take this little back piece, and I'm going to put just a line of adhesive right across the center. I'm going to center my bow right here, and there goes my clock. Yep, what would a video be without my clock? And so you can see I've centered it there. Now actually I didn't center it very well, so I'm going to try to pull it back up. Oh, that's not going to work. Okay, well, that's not going to bother me so much, but you know, you want to be a little bit more exact. Okay, so I've got the bow made. Now I'm going to take those 2 butterflies again, a large one and a medium one, and I'm going to ink them like I've done before to give them a little pop. Now, one thing I forgot to do, you can also ink this. You should really ink your edges of this before you glue it all down, but I forgot to do that. So I'm doing it now. No big deal. Alright. And then I'm going to do the same thing to my butterflies. Again, like last time, you're just giving it a very light touch. Well, you can do as much as you want to do. Okay, it depends on how much you want to stand out. So I just give it a light one, and I've got to decide which side's going to go up on this, and I think I like that side better. So again, inking it all the way around. And you notice I'm not getting that crazy about getting into every little nook and cranny. If you're a perfectionist and that you would prefer that, then go for it. Alright, got them inked up. So I'm going to do the same thing again as I did last time. I'm going to mount this one on the top of the other. I'm going to use my dimensional dots or squares, whichever you have. Let's place those. Where am I in the shot? There we go. And I have a hard time with these sometimes getting them off. This one I'm having a real hard time with. Okay, let's get that. There we go. Put there. Take the little sticky stuff off the edge of it. Gotta be an easier way. Okay, there we go. Got that off. Mount it. Okay, and then I'm going to use my dimensional glue dots again. Put one right in the center of the butterfly, and then I'm going to mount this butterfly in the center of the bow. There we go. Now, just to add a little dimension of bling to this, and you can flatten these down a little bit, especially if you are actually going to send out these cards to somebody in an envelope. You may want to do that, flatten them down. And I'm going to take some cheap old rhinestones that patch to them that I got at the dollar store. And this again is an option. You might want to do this, you might not. The other way to get to do this, if I can get this package open, excuse me for just a minute, okay. You could do this with stickles as well. So I'm going to take one of these rhinestones off. They're already sticky. I'm going to put one there. And I'm going to put one on the other side. And you notice that my bow, I got it off center a little bit when I was gluing it there. So that's going to look a little bit weird. However, I'm not going to worry too much about it right now. This is for demo purposes only. I wonder if I can just fold that up. No, I can't. Okay, let's not play around with that too much. It gives you the idea. And on the inside of my card, I'm just going to mount that down about the center. I'm going to flatten it a little bit. Still got dimension to it. It's just that the card, I want the card to be able to close. And let's add a little adhesive to this. And I'm just going to mount it right along here. I'm not too happy with the fact that this piece got a little... You want to know something? I'm going to cheat. I'm going to take this little... This is called adjusting on the fly. Okay? I'm going to take this and I'm going to put it there. And I'm going to take... And that's not good. Just glued it down to the card. Okay, I'm all thumbs in this video. I'm going to take this one, glue that one down here. And then I'm going to cheat. I'm going to take my scissors and I'm simply going to cut a new point just to shorten it down a little bit. Of course, you'll do it correctly. And I'm going to glue it down to the center here. And there. I've got it. All done. My sentiment can be brought across there. Ignore the fact that I've torn up the paper on this part. Okay. But you get the idea. You'll do a much better job. Okay. And there. And there's card number 1. Done. So next we're going to move to card number 2.